Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to share with you some of the experiences we've been through during the DevOps transformation we've been doing at Sky Betting and Gaming over the last 8 years. I've subtitled the talk, A Case of History Repeating. You'll probably see why as we go through the talk. Before we get going, let's do introductions. Hi, my name is Andy. I've been at Sky Betting and Gaming for the last 5 years. My current role is as a lead platform engineer, and I'm very much a proponent of grassroots DevOps. I'm one of the organising teams behind DevOps Days London, and I've been running the DevOps meetup in Leeds, where I live, for the last coming up to 7 years now. If you have any questions about the talk, I will be around for the rest of the conference, so please feel free to grab me. But if you want to tweet questions at me, you can as well. My handle is up there, or you might just want to troll me. I don't mind, I quite like the attention. My pronouns are he and him, and let's talk a bit about Sky Betting and Gaming. Let's find out what we're all about. So we are the most popular online bookmakers in the UK. We have a couple of products. So we have our sports betting platform, Sky Bet, and we have a number of gaming products. So Sky Casino, Sky Bingo, Sky Vegas, and Sky Poker. We have a number of free-to-play products as well as our affiliations with certain sponsorship deals. And as you can see from the charts, things have been going pretty well. Put some numbers behind what pretty well means. We've got 1,400 employees in the UK, primarily based out of our headquarters in Leeds, but we have offices in Sheffield, where we have a couple of development teams, and we have some subsidiary offices in Solihull and Hammersmith. And we've been going through massive growth over the last 5 years, so somewhere between 20 to 30% growth year on year, and that's given us some really big challenges. So not just in terms of growing customers, but growing teams and growing tech. And I don't think we could have had the level of success we've had or risen to those challenges without the adoption of Agile and the adoption of DevOps. I have our revenue figure there from last year. It's quite impressive, but not quite as impressive as this number. We were bought last October by the Stars Group for 4.7 billion Canadian dollars. Now, to give you some idea of what you can buy with 4.7 billion Canadian dollars, I did some calculations, and I worked out I could take everyone here for lunch at Nando's. We'd do main and two sides, we wouldn't scream. Every day for 3,000 years. I don't think I'm going to get that past the bosses and expenses claim, but it's a nice idea. But that gives you the idea of kind of what kind of value we've been worth. And it's a really exciting time to be part of the organisation, because we're not just Sky Bet in the UK anymore. We have a sister company in Australia called BetEasy, and the Stars Group have products and territories across the globe. So it's a really exciting time to be involved with the business. But things weren't always so big or so successful. If we go back to when we started our DevOps transformation work around 2011, you can see we had a couple of dev teams. They were working in an agile manner, producing regular releases, and we had an infrastructure team which worked in waterfall. They were concerned about data centers, virtual machines, storage arrays, load balancers, firewalls. There was a real communication and collaboration problem between the two sets. So, even though it was an anti-pattern in 2011, we decided to create a DevOps team and put people called DevOps engineers into that team. Now, to start with, that team became a collaboration team, getting the two sets to work together better. They became then a release team, and then a pipeline team, and then an automation team, and then an infrastructure as code team. And if we whiz forward to 5 years, to 2016, things are very, very different. We don't have that centralized DevOps team anymore. That's long gone. And we've adopted the Spotify tribes and squads model. And as you can see, in some of the tribes, they have a dedicated ops team or squad, but some of the tribes are trying to go cross-functional. They're putting ops engineers in with their devs and their testers. At this point, it's a very mixed level of adoption and maturity for DevOps. Each of the tribes are at different levels. But the important thing, I think, of this slide isn't that it's called tribes and squads or cross-functional or product teams. It's the fact that we've got autonomous teams doing agile software delivery. That's kind of the important bit. And today, well, I can't draw that diagram anymore. It's way too complicated. But I've listed here the technology tribes. There are a bunch of other tribes to do with our customer experience, fraud and risk, finance, HR, all those kind of things you expect in a business. But these are the technology ones. And if you look closely at the squads there, you'll see that some of them are organised by function and some of them are organised by product. These are autonomous, they can do what's right for them. And I wanted to start with a quote really to sort of set the scene about this, how we've done this, but this quote got used yesterday. So I was only a little bit miffed. But it kind of sets the scene about, as we've been on this journey, we've learned how to do things, how to improve and how to get better at improving. But that wasn't the whole story, because as well as getting better at things, we were also seeing similar problems again and again happening. We saw history repeating. And what we worked out was that the ideas and answers we had to problems in one area of the business were also applicable in the other area. So we've moved these into sort of sets of patterns which we apply across the business, and I'll explain those in a bit. In case you're wondering where this quote comes from, this is from the great Swedish philosophers, ABBA. Who knew that they were DevOps visionaries back in 1974? Okay, so these patterns. We have two patterns I'm going to explain to you today. One is the product pattern, and one is the team pattern. The product pattern is concerned with how we go from idea through to a running product in production. And the other one is how we take a team on its evolution on that journey. So they're both very tightly coupled. It's worth saying though, these patterns aren't processes. They're not checklists that we do. These are just kind of our best practices and our ways of working, which we've evolved over 8 years. So they're a set of guidelines and a set of ways of working rather than a process we impose. That's why I call them a pattern. And these work really well for us because we've got 8 years worth of DevOps transformation behind us. We have autonomous teams doing agile software delivery. We have had all the difficult conversations with the dev teams about being on call. You build it, you run it, you get up in the middle of the night when it cries and sort it out. We've had the mindset shift from projects to products. And I suppose most importantly, we've become a learning organisation. Experimentation is okay, but most importantly, it's okay to screw up and fail so long as you're learning and you're getting some value out of it. And that's made a massive difference to the company and how we approach things. So I'm going to go through the product pattern first. And the product pattern isn't about features we deliver to our end customers. It's not about feature stories. It's actually not really about our customers. It's more intended for internal products. So the big ones as well. So let's build a new CRM system. Let's look at a new data analytics platform. Let's build a container hosting platform, for example. So it's for big things. And this pattern is broken into 4 phases. It starts with something called POC, which is proof of concept. And to prove a concept, you need a concept. So these ideas come from various places in the business. They can come from product owners, they can come from execs, but equally they could come from me or any of my colleagues in the business. But they may be trying to solve a business objective, a capability, a problem that we're having with some technology, or even a hypothesis. Sometimes we do these proof of concepts to see if a product or a service or a technology won't work as much as it will. So we start with our idea, and we draw up a list of requirements about it, and then we go through a plan, build, study, loop. At any point during this, we can ditch this as a bad idea. We can write it off. We say, this isn't going to work, there's no point pursuing it. Or we could go back to the original idea and say, why don't we do this instead? Let's change the actual concept we're trying to prove. Hopefully we will get as far as our proof of concept being built. We've built something that proves the concept. We'll get stakeholders involved, and we'll show it to them, or the findings we've got from it. There is a tendency at this point for stakeholders to get very excited and want to go straight to live with stuff. Don't do that. Do not go straight to live with the proof of concept. Instead, go to the next stage in the pattern, MVP, minimal viable products. I'm sure many of you in the room have heard of that. And we start with the learnings from the POC, or we could even start with the POC, depending upon what it's built and what quality it is. And then we bring in 3 important other areas of the business. Firstly, we bring in a customer. We're going to make this product for them. We want their input. We want to build something that they're going to want to use. I don't know how many of you in the room have built things before, not knowing who the customer is, or not even having a customer for the thing you're building, that's kind of scary. I saw some nodding. That's really scary. So we have a customer, and we're going to get their functional requirements for the MVP from them. We also bring in service lifecycle management and security. This is really important with an MVP because an MVP is actually going to run in live. It's a minimal viable product. It's a live thing. So we need to make sure we have the necessary or minimum amount of operability in the product so that our service lifecycle team know that it's going to run safely. It's going to be monitored, and it's going to be, if necessary, call people out if it's of that layer of importance to the business. We also bring security in for two reasons. Number one is we've got to make sure that the data we're handling in these systems is appropriate and we're handling the right level of data, and how we handle that data is in a secure way. But secondly, we're a really heavily regulated industry, and if we screw up, we can get big fines or even worse. So we help, our security people help us make sure that we're compliant. So we go through this build loop again. So we go through the build, release, and again we can make the decision to can the product if we should need to, or even go back to the POC, go back right to the beginning and say, it wasn't the right thing to build, but we've learned that we should have built something else. Why don't we build that? We have the organisational safety to do that. Once we have our MVP, we move into something called MMP. This is minimal marketable product. At this point, we start bringing in more customers into using the product. So we get more functional requirements. And again, we work with service and security. We build out all the non-functional requirements around operability to make sure that this thing is stable and reliable when it's out as a final product. And we also market this solution to other customers, and we get their functional requirements in as well. So we're building the original customer stuff, the new customer stuff, and the ones we want to add as well. So it's quite feature rich by the time we get to the product stage. As we're building out this MMP of what will eventually become the final product, it's again okay to realize we've made a mistake. It's unusual, but it can happen by this stage that we decide not to pursue with the product anymore. But we've got the safety to do that if we want to. So let's look at the next pattern now. Let's look at the team pattern. And it may be that the product we're going to build matches the domain knowledge of an existing team. It may well just sit with them based on the technology or the actual business function it does. So in that case, we've already got a team to do it. But sometimes we're building new stuff, we're experimenting, and we need a team that we're going to build and take on that journey with the product. And to do that, we start with the pilot team. We will take some experts, some specialists with specialist knowledge about a product and about a technology, and we will get them to build out the POC. They're going to stay with this product as it progresses through MVP, MMP, into an eventual product, so that they're collecting all the knowledge and the history and the learnings of how it's built along the journey. As we move from POC into MVP and MMP, we bring in more team members. We make the team cross-functional so that it's not just about these experts anymore. It's about all the skill sets we need to deliver that product as a squad or as a team. We bring in multiple customers as we go into MMP, and it's the responsibility of this team to go out and market this product, be it through workshops or through running demos, to other customers in the business. That's their job. And while we're doing this, we're also starting to establish how we're going to operate this thing in live, where the responsibilities are going to be between our customers and ourselves, so we don't have that awkward conversation later. We've already started thinking about that and documenting it and building the product in a way that supports that. And eventually, we may have a final product that's not having too many new feature enhancements, is stable from an operability perspective. We may then move that into a service team to run. Might not need a whole team anymore. If we do move it into a service team, we take some of the original team that built this product into that team to be the SMEs. So all those knowledge and learnings about how it works and how it was built isn't lost. And the remaining members of the team might move into the customer squad so they can be subject matter experts about it there as well. So let's have a look at an example of how this actually works in practice. So in September of 2016, this wiki page was written. Pretty sure you can read the text at the back, but for those that are struggling, the overview says this is intended to deliver the next iteration of the BetTribe hosting platform, supporting the platform's fit for growth branch of the LVT. And then there's a vision statement that reads, outside of the squad, there should be no humans involved in the value stream between feature and customer. So some very clear what and whys of what we're going to build here, what this product's to do. There was one other requirement which was a bit unusual at the time. This is back in 2016, remember. This product wanted to be cloud first. It wanted to be built out in AWS. And at the time, mainly because of our heavy regulation, we tended to build most stuff on-prem. There were only a few products and services that run out on the cloud at this time in 2016. So there was very limited experience in terms of development experience in the business. Fortunately, we did have one team that had built our notification platform out in AWS. That made perfect sense because it's a very spiky, should we say, traffic load on this particular application. It updates all the scores and all the prices and all the match events in our mobile app and in our website. So on a Friday morning, it's not doing very much, so it can be scaled right down. On a Saturday afternoon, when there's a full program of football matches on, we can hit some big numbers and some big numbers of users. So we took some of the team that had worked on this as our pilot team to build out our proof of concept for this container hosting platform. And to be fair, it was pretty much a technology selection piece at this particular stage, which container hosting platform we were going to build, which would be right for us. We defined criteria and we built out a few POCs and chose a solution off the back of that. Then we started to build out the MVP. So we needed a customer. Fortunately, our trading teams wanted to build their trading models in containers. So we had a perfect match for our container hosting platform. So we worked with them as our first customer, identifying their functional requirements and our own and building those out. We also worked with security and service life cycle management to make sure that we were building the MVP so it could be supported and it was operable, but also that what we were doing and handling in the actual product would be safe and compliant. And we did have some requirement changes during the build. The stakeholders decided that it would be a good idea if this ran on-prem as well as in AWS. So we had to do some refactoring around that, and that was at MVP stage. We've expanded the team out at this point. It's not just that bunch of specialists. We've now got other engineers in there that are providing other knowledge and other skills. And as we move into MP stage, it's now the responsibility of that team to go out into the rest of the business and sell the MVP to them. Turns out it was actually quite easy, but we did a load of work around this. We've run over a dozen training workshops with about 10 developers in each. So, there's a large proportion of our technical resource within Sky Betting and Gaming that have used our platforms, know its capabilities and its restrictions as well. So we've done that whole outreach thing. And we've got a number of customers on live now, and an increasing number as well. We've also, at this stage, started working really hard on those service boundaries to make sure that we know who owns what and who runs what, so that that's not a surprise when we get to live. And what we haven't done yet is we haven't moved it to a service team, because in the fast moving technology field of container hosting, as you can imagine, things aren't very stable. Things are evolving very quickly, and the technologies are. So we haven't moved it into a service team. But if we did, we would take some of the original members of the team that have worked on this product, who have built it, who have run it, and move those into the service team, and the rest of the team would move into our customers as subject matter experts. But we've not done that yet. So let's have a little think about the outcomes of this. We've now got a number of live services running on this product. Original trading models, they're running on there. We've got some feed ingestion, some promotional work, and the actual notification platform where the team members originally came from, that works very well in containers. So that's actually hosted on the platform that they built. And it's made a massive difference to our AWS build by doing that. It's just cut loads and loads of budget on that. It's been a real success in a business like that. I want to take a little detour in this now and start talking about how we manage work at Sky Betting and Gaming, and it'll become apparent at the end why I'm doing this. So, like many organisations, we've grown really quickly over the last 5 years, and we've done that by adopting Agile. And Agile isn't just a technology thing. Our HR team practice Agile HR. So the Agile adoption isn't just in technology. But we use a mix of Scrum and Kanban. There's no prescribed method. It's whatever's right for the squads. They are autonomous. A great thing we have done though recently is consolidate all our ticketing systems into one. So service lifecycle management use the same ticketing system as the devs use for their build and feature stories. That's been a very, very smart thing to do. But as I say, we've been growing rapidly over the last few years, and we were facing some real problems with cross-tribe collaboration or even cross-squad collaboration at times, particularly with service teams. We were starting to get build-ups of tickets. We were starting to have problems with handoffs. We were having delays where there were dependencies on other squads and other tribes, and everyone working in those squads was working really hard, but there was lots of context switching, and it really was impacting the business of how it was moving forward. And typically to get something done and prioritized, we would either do the get my boss to talk to their boss and get them to prioritize it together, or we would phone a friend. We were very, very reliant on Slack as a business, particularly in technology. That's kind of how we communicate all the time. But this has a downside as well. You're starting to get into dark arts at this point, and that isn't a very constructive way to build your business and your processes. So, one of our engineers who works in our platform services squad had a bright idea. They'd seen some papers and some articles about chat ops and wondered if we could actually integrate one into our Slack systems and integrate that into the ticketing system and act as a bridge. So in their Friday afternoon L&D time, they built MonkeyBot. Let's have a look at it. It's probably easier to show it in action than go through what it does. So in this particular scenario, our engineer Philip has a problem with a pipeline. He goes onto the Slack channel for that particular pipeline and types @MonkeyBot help and then describes the problem. The MonkeyBot springs to life and it immediately creates a ticket in our ticketing system. In our case, it's Jira. It also integrates with the PagerDuty API, finds out who's the support engineer rotated for that day, so that we're only interrupting one person in that team. We're not interrupting everybody, so everybody else can get on with their day jobs. David, our engineer, pops on, has a look. He tags the component that he's identified as being the problem one through the bot. So he marks the component, and that's recorded on the ticket. He then goes away and looks at the problem and finds that it's actually quite an embarrassing simple syntax error. Our engineer is suitably embarrassed about it, and David can now tag the amount of time he spent on that ticket, looking at that problem, and then close it. And that's all being done through chat. And this has been really powerful for us because, first of all, we've now got a log of all our problems. We've got tickets that have been opened and closed. No one's been into Jira and done anything. And inside that ticket, we've got how much time was spent on it, what particular area was the problem, and that chat transcript as well goes in there. And it's made a massive difference because we've gone from not understanding our unplanned work, where we had opinions on what the problem areas were, to having data and facts on it. So we can now look at the problem areas and the technologies that are causing grief to support teams. So it's quite obvious from here which technologies are causing problems, and also we can find out which customers it's affecting. So we might have to go and give extra training to a particular area of the business, but it also means we can target our efforts in our backlog planning and in our sprint backlogs on targeting things to help manage that unplanned work. We can target specific technologies so that we can better reduce that unplanned work, so we're actually fixing the problem rather than just living with it. So it's provided us, particularly in technology, with a way of interacting across tribes and across squad, and it's kind of become the de facto way of working now. But that's because we have heavily invested in Slack as a technology platform. That's the way we communicate with our teams. So let's wrap up. So today, we have looked at two patterns. We've looked at one that takes an idea through to an actual product. We've looked at how we take a team on that journey. We've looked at some of the evolution of Sky Betting and Gaming and our DevOps journey over the last 8 years, and how we work autonomously with Agile. We've looked at a tool which we made to help manage and give us a handle on unplanned work. And I think these ways of working, these patterns and just the organisational ethos, means that over the last 5 years, half the ideas we've had have actually come to fruition and become real products. That's meant we've been able to change the question as well as the answer. So we've actually evolved the original ideas so that the things we've actually ended up building are things that people want, rather than vanity projects that people have just pursued with a set of original requirements. It also means that any of the ideas we had that really shouldn't have made it any further than they did were able to be canned in a safe environment. We've been able to recognise that and not just carry on. But these patterns work for us because we've this 8 years worth of adoption. We've 8 years worth of experience working with these patterns. So be inspired by them, take them back to where you work, but bear in mind without the backstory they might not work so well. And I think it's fair to say that anyone who's on a DevOps transformation, it will never be finished. It's going to be an ongoing process for years and years and years and years. And finally, I just want to cover off what's next, because we don't stop at this point with the container hosting team. So the infrastructure platform engineering squad, which runs it, which I'm part of, we're changing our focus a little. Rather than going from this idea from MVP to MMP to finished product, we're starting to think about it always being a marketable product and how we stay engaged and evangelize about the product features and get requirements and feedback. So we're creating 3 areas of focus for the squad. We're having an engine focus. So some of the engineers in the team will be focused on the engine. That's going to be the core platform. We've then got a capabilities team, which is going to sit on top of looking at the capabilities that run on that platform. And then we're going to have a team that's concerned with customer experience, that's going to work with our customers and engage with them and evangelize about the product, but collect these requirements. And we've only just started this journey. It is an experiment. There are no other tribes or no other squads in our tribe doing this. If this works, we'll probably roll this out as a pattern to the other squads within our tribe. And if it all goes well, I can come back next year and tell you how it went. So thank you very much for listening.